Can you introduce yourself and who you are?
Hello, I'm Simon Lamb. I'm Clerk of Friends World Committee for Consultation. I'm from Ireland yearly meeting.
And can you talk about your connection with HAM Seok Heon, please?
I don't have a lot of connection. I had two experiences of spending time with him at two of the triennials way back in Kaimosi in 1982 and in Westepec in 1985. On the first occasion, I was a very young friend. I was 22, and it was my first international visit to anywhere among friends, really, apart from my Quaker Youth pilgrimage. And I remember I was sitting somewhere, and this little man, and I mean he was little by comparison to me because I'm quite a tall guy, and this little man with his beard and his white robes turned up beside me and sat down, and I had kind of noticed him in the meeting and later discovered it was HAM Seok Heon. And he sat down, and I, being the typical chatty Irish man that I am, kept talking to him. And I very quickly realised that this was a very quiet and thoughtful but in the same time I realised that all the words that I had said were probably my style, but I actually realised that he was a man who was very contemplative in the way he discussed things with people. And I kind of realised afterwards that all my words were probably a bit of a waste of energy, and his few words probably said far more than any of the words I had said in all the chatting I had done. The second experience I had was, and that was my only real experience in Kaimosi. But in 1985, I had a more extended opportunity to chat to him, and he was in a more chatty mood on that occasion. And we were on the bus. We sat beside each other on the bus to one of the Mexican pyramids to do our tourist excursion day out. And he says, I'm going to climb this pyramid. And I thought, you're 82 or 84 or whatever age he was. And I thought to myself, is he going to be able to do it or not? But to be totally honest, he was quicker up the pyramid than I was. And there was some sense of exuberance about him. He had a great joy. I think he enjoyed my Irish laughter. That was one thing he really did like, I think. And I think he probably just enjoyed engaging with young people and finding out exactly what I was about. I think because I was quite an outgoing, chatty, exuberant kind of character, I think he was kind of interested in that and thoroughly enjoyed the dialogue. So we climbed the pyramid together, and he was up before I was. Effectively, he was as fit for a man of his age. He was amazingly agile, and I kind of took real pleasure in that day, and I have very fond memories of it now, because having not really known him prior to my experiences of him at the World Triennials, I kind of started reading about him and reading the influence he'd had on Korean society, but also on peace building and attitudes to changing the way we think. And I read his autobiography, Kicked by God, which I thought was one of the most inspiring titles for an autobiography anywhere. And I actually looked for a copy, and they got me one in a friend's house in London out of the library, and I was able to get a photocopy of it, and I've read it since. So he's kind of inspired. He was a very inspiring individual just to meet on those two occasions, and I'm very glad I had the privilege of doing so.
In speaking to Quakers around the world, what do you think the advantages are of us finding Quakers who may offer us new perspectives away from the birthplaces of Quakerism?
I think it's absolutely vital that we start to see Quaker role models that are not just British and North American. I think there's absolutely vital that there's a lot of dynamic African friends who are offering a real zeal and energy. I have the privilege of spending time in, I've done it twice, and I'm going in a few weeks' time to Burundi, and it's a country I've fallen in love with, partly because there's an energy and a dynamism there among friends that is an encouragement to any of us who come from maybe the Western or Northern Hemisphere part of the world, that somehow rather, you know, think that we're the source of everything, but actually in some ways the world has kind of been turned upside down in the last century, with much of the drive within Quakerism now coming from what we would consider to be the developing world, and that is really exciting, not only for Quakerism, but I think it's going to help safeguard our religious society for the future.
Anything else you'd like to say?
Not much. We're having a great time here in South Africa in preparation for the World Plenary meeting next year. I wish all of you the best, and I hope that you think about coming to this conference, because it's going to be a very exciting, dynamic conference where we're looking at issues of historical and continuing injustice, which of course is at the very heart of why we need to turn the thing a little bit upside down, and why we need to look at Quaker heroes is the wrong word, but Quaker visionaries and Quaker people who offered something inspirational from other traditions rather than the Northern Hemisphere.